Imagine before you a staircase with 10 steps. Imagine that someone tells you that you can only move one or two steps upwards or downwards with each step, meaning that you can either take one step upwards, two step upwards with one step, that is, two steps downwards, or one step downwards. Additionally, they tell you that you cannot stand on the same step twice. Here comes the question. In how many ways can you ascend the staircase? While you think about that, I have some other things. Hi, my name is William, and I'm planning on creating a YouTube channel where I talk about my primary interests and math, music, and/or fitness. The problem that you just heard was the final problem on the qualification for the so-called SMT. It stands for the school's mathematics competition in Swedish, and it's the main pathway if one wants to qualify for higher international math competitions, such as the International Mathematics Olympiad if you live in Sweden. I found this problem both interesting, applicable, and not very math heavy. So even you not so math interested, that despite all the forces of the YouTube algorithm have wound up here, can still follow along. Um, if this problem seems overwhelming, it should. Good job so far. This is a good thing because it sends us in the right direction. A common problem-solving technique that is applicable to both math and real life is to break it down by solving an easier problem first. Not just any problem, of course, but an easier version of your problem. Let's imagine a one step long staircase. In how many ways can we ascend that? Well, of course, one way by taking one step upwards. And by the way, I'm gonna name the big step, like the two steps step. I'm gonna name that the big step, and the one step is the small one. Yeah. So now imagine a two-step staircase that you can ascend in two ways, of course, by taking either one big step upwards or two smaller steps upwards. Do that again with a three-step staircase. I will get to my point shortly, but here you have to be a little bit careful. You can either take three small steps upwards, or one small first and then one big, or you can in the reversed order, you can take one big and then one small. Um, and up until this point, we haven't had to think about taking steps back, but now we do. We can actually ascend the staircase in another way by taking a big step first, then a small step back, and then a big step again. But only working our way up will actually help us. We're still just counting all the possibilities. We have to simplify this in some way. So maybe we should look for what our options are at the beginning of the staircase. So what can you do? Well, you can take a small step forward. You can take a big step forward and decide to continue forward. Or as mentioned, the three-sized staircase, you can take a big step forward, then a small step downwards, and then a big one again, big one up, that is. Essentially, you go up one, two, or three steps at your first move. That's the only three options you have right at the start. I can repeat them. Either you take one small upwards, or you take one big and then decide to continue forward, or you take one big, one small back, and then one big up again. So yeah, that's all our three options. You can do all sorts of things after that, but at the start, that's all you have. So let's now apply this to the four-sized staircase. And I think that this is the most difficult part so far. So if you haven't really followed along, I would suggest you like watch it again. Um, by the way, if anyone actually watches this video, please tell me if you understand or not. Don't blame yourself if you don't blame me. Um, as earlier mentioned, we can either go up one, two, or three steps. And I want you to think what you are left with after each one of these moves. If you're standing at the foot of your four-step sized staircase and you go up one step, what are you left with? Well, a three steps sized staircase, of course. Um, and if you decide, and how, oh, sorry, and how many ways can we ascend a three steps staircase? Well, in four ways. We already know that. So, and if you decide to take a big step and then keep moving forward, you're left with a two steps sized staircase. And how many ways could we ascend that? Well, in two, we already know that. And again, if you take one big upwards, one small downwards, and then one big upwards again, then you're left with a one step staircase. And you can ascend that in one way. So, this means that what are we yeah, so what we're doing here is basically describing the amount of possible paths, not by how many steps there are, but how many steps it took to ascend a shorter staircase. Cool, right? Maybe you're getting the picture. So this means that a four steps sized staircase has as many possible paths as a one steps, two steps, and three steps sized staircase combined or added. Now's the first part where we actually have to do some maths besides counting to four, and we are almost at the finish line. So this is called a recursion or a recursive function, and basically means what I just described to you. We don't know how many paths there are just from the amount of steps, but from how many paths there were for smaller staircases. Essentially describing the function based on earlier values of the function. And okay, so an example of this is the most simple form of a recursive function is just adding one. Say I give you $1 every day. Yeah, so a toddler would not be able to write out a function based on earlier values. No, sorry, a toddler would not be able to write out a function of how many dollars you have after a certain time because they probably don't know what a function is. But I think they would understand that they have $1 more than yesterday. So an example of a recursive function would be f of x plus 1 equals f of x plus 1, or more commonly denoted as f subscript x plus 1 equals f subscript x plus 1. Since we know that a four-step staircase has had as many possible paths as a one, two, and three steps sized staircase combined, we can write that as f4 equals f3 plus f2 plus f1. Or because we're ascending either one, two, or three steps with our first step or move, the value is the sum of the three previous values, meaning that the complete recursive function is f subscript s equals f s minus 1 plus f s minus 2 plus f s minus 3, where s is the amount of steps. So now we just have to follow the recursion up to 10 by doing some addition. So we knew that one-sized staircase had one possible paths, two-sized gave two possible paths, three-sized gave four possible paths. And we know that a fourth was the sum of the previous three. So 1 plus 2 plus 4, that's 7. And then we know that the next one is also the sum of the previous three. So 2 plus 4 plus 7, which is 13. And then continue the pattern, sum of the previous three. 4, 7, 13, that's 24. 7, 13, 24, the sum of that is 44. The sum of 13, 24, and 44 is 81. The sum of 24, 44, and 81, that's 149. And the sum of 44, 81, and 149 is 274. And there we have it. 274 different ways to ascend a staircase with 10 steps. We solved it. So if you're interested in more problems like these, uh, please subscribe. And now I have two questions for you. Can we ever take a big step downwards? And what happens if we increase our mobility to 1, 2, or 3 steps at a time? Please share your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you soon. Bye.